Story 1. Did I just become younger, or did I go back in time? Story 2. Probably try to be the smart kid this time instead of the kid who wings everything at the last minute. Story 3. I would cry with utter joy and thank God for a chance to correct many things that went wrong. Then I would hug the family members who are now alive again. Story 4. Ask that girl out. I was always afraid, and she would probably say no, but at least I would have the satisfaction of asking. Story 5. It depends. Do I wake up as a teen in 2025 or in the 1990s? The answers would be very different. If I had knowledge from 2025 while in the 1990s, I could invest in Apple before the iPhone and in a brand new company called Google. Story 6. Make a fuss until mom gets regular screenings. Tell dad which companies to invest in. Sabotage my sister's relationship with her emotionally abusive, alcoholic husband. Find my courage sooner. Choose what is best for me, not everyone else, when deciding my future. Any or all of these. Story 7. Put on a bathing suit and dance around in my perfect body. Story 8. Stop caring so much. Focus and lock in. I would chase my own dreams instead of worrying myself sick over people and the anxieties that come with them. I realized I was happier when I was not worried. Story 9. With all the knowledge I have now, avoid making the same mistakes I made, and make many new ones. Story 10. A cartwheel. I was a gymnast until I broke my back in a bad car accident in my mid-teens. Being pain-free would be unbelievable. Story 11. Sounds typical, but apply to more schools and scholarships. I didn't decide to go to college until the last minute and still had barely any faith, so I only applied to 5 schools and got into 2. I don't regret the school I chose, just the debt I accumulated with it. Story 12. We were together for 30 years. He left without any warning. Story 13. Make notes of what to do and what not to do. I will not interact with certain people again. Story 14. Accept advances from women who are interested in me. Get my testosterone level and red blood cell count corrected. Stop taking medications I do not need that make me unhealthy. Learn Japanese. Story 15. Hey, I need to talk to you about something important because I care about you. Right now your health problems are serious enough that, if nothing changes, they could shorten your life and put you at risk of dying in your 40s. I do not want that to happen, and I want to help you try to prevent it. What I'm seeing and why I'm concerned: uncontrolled high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, untreated diabetes, smoking, heavy drinking, untreated sleep problems, or a very sedentary lifestyle can lead to heart disease, stroke, organ failure, infection, and other life-threatening conditions sooner than expected. The sooner these things are checked and treated, the better the chances of avoiding major problems. What you can do now: make an appointment with a primary care doctor as soon as possible. Ask for a full checkup including blood pressure measurement, a blood test for cholesterol and fasting blood glucose or glycated hemoglobin, basic liver and kidney tests, and an electrocardiogram if recommended. If you have diabetes or high blood pressure, follow up with recommended specialists such as an endocrinologist or cardiologist and take prescribed medications exactly as directed. Stop smoking and cut back or stop drinking alcohol. These are 2 of the biggest controllable risks. Improve your diet. Focus on vegetables, fruit, whole grains, lean protein, healthy fats, and limit processed foods, sugar, and excess salt. Start moving more. Even regular brisk walking for 30 minutes most days makes a big difference. Work with a clinician to set a safe exercise plan. Address sleep issues. If you snore heavily, wake gasping, or feel very tired in the day, ask about sleep apnea testing. Seek help for mental health, stress, or substance use. Depression and stress make it much harder to manage health problems. Stay up to date with vaccinations and routine screenings recommended for your age and medical conditions. When to get urgent help: go to urgent care or the emergency department if you have severe chest pain, sudden shortness of breath, sudden weakness or numbness, fainting, severe vomiting or bleeding, or other life-threatening symptoms. How I will help: I will go with you to appointments, help you make calls, and be there while you make changes. We can set small goals together and track progress. We can find local smoking cessation or weight management programs and, if needed, support groups or counseling. I'm telling you this because I care and because there is still time to change the likely outcome. Please let me help you take the first step and make an appointment this week. Story 16. Buy a plane ticket and find my husband so we can enjoy our flat stomach years together. Story 17. Warn myself that in about 20 years I will experience seizures and be diagnosed with epilepsy, so I should try to keep major life stressors to a minimum. Story 18. This is a little off subject, but it fits the question. My dad committed suicide when I was 7. A few months ago I had a vivid dream. My wife likes retro things, and we have a 1960s clock radio on my side of the bed. In the dream, I was back in my old neighborhood as a teenager. I was part of a group of teens who would hang out with my dad and talk about cars and baseball. I never saw my 7-year-old self. The clock radio was there. I was so awed to see my dad again that I did not want to tell him right away that I was his son because I was afraid he would think I was crazy. The clock started acting strangely, and I realized it was a conduit between past and future. Time was running out, so I pulled him aside and told him I was his son from the future and to please realize he was loved. I begged him not to kill himself, that I wanted to see him again and that my children would love to meet him. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and told me he loved me. But he also said his fate was set, and he hoped I would forgive him. Then he proceeded to melt in front of me like someone opening the Ark of the Covenant. I woke up the next morning with a few extra gray hairs. Every time I look at that alarm clock, I get chills. Story 19. If it were 1995, I would buy the rights to all lithium deposits and rare earths, and I would buy Nvidia and Microsoft stock. I would also plan to buy all the Bitcoin in 2009. Of course, I was a teenager and broke, so I could not do any of that. Instead, I worked, saved a lot, and in 2009 I bought several thousand Bitcoin. Story 20. I stared in the mirror and realized how great my body looked. I didn't appreciate it at the time. I thought I was fat, but I wasn't. Story 21. I would be a quivering, bawling mess knowing I could never see my child again. Story 22. Run my hand through a once great, thriving society of hair. Story 23. Start therapy. I wish I had access to high-quality therapy at that age instead of dealing with it much later in life. Story 24. If I had known then what I know now, I would have gotten a proper haircut, bought new clothes, and lived a more rewarding life. I would have avoided becoming an alcoholic and instead followed my dream of attending medical school. I have lived a unique life that I do not regret, but I would not wish it on anyone. I am sober now and doing the best I can. Story 25. Go find my soulmate. Fuck waiting as long as I did. We already talked about this scenario. We both agreed we would have gotten together no matter the time frame. Story 26. Maybe I'll go hug my mom in the kitchen. Her delicious cooking is wafting up to my cozy canopy bed. I understand her far better now. Story 27. Open the door to see if I am back in my old neighborhood. If I am, shit, I'm waking up and going to school. I would love to see those knuckleheads again. Story 28. I would enjoy every moment of it. I am retired now and you do not get those days back. Story 29. Do not sell your horses and leave home with that man. You are 16, he is 22. That is not love. Story 30. I definitely would not repress my sexuality, and I would have a flirty response for that Keira Knightley lookalike who said she wished I were gay. Story 31. Curse and cry. I don't have the patience to go through that shit again. Story 32. Hug my mom and ask her not to leave. She died by suicide when I was 16. Story 33. Tell myself not to prioritize boys during high school and college. Story 34. I wouldn't listen to my mom and become a police officer, or tell her, yes, I deserve to go to the college prep school. I'm bored at regular school. Story 35. I would like to find my mother and just talk with her. She died at age 51. I still miss her every day. I would also like the chance to have grown up in the 1980s. The freedom, the music, and the schools that were still safe and provided a great education. Story 36. It depends on the teen. At 13, I started my running journey. At 19, I stopped partying and focused on school. Story 37. I would be nicer to my parents. I would get a better haircut. I would end my relationship with my boyfriend after a conversation about consent. Story 38. I cry with happiness, then visit all the places that are no longer here. Pizza Hut, watching Total Request Live, spending 12 hours downloading on Napster with dial-up, and drinking Snapple from a glass bottle. I hope you mean I go back, not that I spend my teen years in the present, because I would be so lost. Story 39. Actually care and make sure I am on the path to success instead of being a failure. Story 40. Honestly, take a nap. I did not appreciate how elite teen naps were until adulthood hit me like a truck. Story 41. To be honest, I would let my family members know how much I love them. I have lost family members over the last 5 years. We are so divided today, and there is a lot of resentment. My goal would be to bring us closer. Story 42. Call my grandparents. They passed away suddenly from coronavirus disease 2019 in 2022. I miss them so much. Story 43. I'm dating a pedophile again. Damn it. Take me forward in time now. Story 44. Hug my mother, grandmother, grandfather, aunts, uncles, and cousins who have passed, and tell them I love them. Stop smoking marijuana. Graduate from college faster. Lose weight and take better care of my teeth. But first, shed countless tears knowing I will never see my son again. Story 45. Go back to sleep. I do not have the same obligations now. It would be nice to take a nap and blame it on puberty. Story 46. I should have gone to California when my aunt invited me. Could have changed my life. Story 47. That depends. Would I wake up now in a teenager's body, or wake up in 1991 as a 13-year-old with all the knowledge, experience, and wisdom I have accumulated over 47 years? My decision would be very different in each case. I would not want to return to being 13. Even though I could change my life trajectory, there are things I would never jeopardize that depend on me living the life I have, such as my son. If I woke up tomorrow physically a teenager again, I would probably take better care of my body than I did the first time. I would also have to convince any police officer who pulled me over that I am not a 13-year-old without a license but a 47-year-old man with 30 years of driving experience. Story 48. The first thing I would do is pull back the heavy quilt on my twin bed. Not because I was cold, but because I would already hear her footsteps hesitating outside my door, escaping the thunder of a Carolina storm. I would not waste a second looking at a calendar or marveling at my youth. I would just wait for the creak of the hinge and the sight of her, my little sister standing in the pale hallway light, looking like a porcelain doll left out in the rain. She would be clutching her arms, her teeth chattering with that terrifying, skeletal rhythm, shivering from a subterranean chill that no amount of summer heat could touch. Before she could even whisper the words, "I can't get warm," I would already be making space for her, pulling her freezing, fragile body against my chest, desperate to wrap her in my own heat and act as a human shield against the winter that was silently blooming in her blood. As we lay there in the dark listening to the rain lash against the siding, she would look up at me with eyes that were too wide, too luminous, and filled with a haunting premature wisdom. She would press her icy palm against my cheek and ask the questions that would shatter my heart all over again. Something feels wrong. What's going to happen to me? If I get lost, can you save me? In that moment, knowing the hospital bed that awaits her, knowing the silence that will eventually fill this house, I would do the only thing a brother could do. I would swallow the agonizing truth, look her in the eye with unwavering conviction, and whisper the most beautiful lie of my life. I promise I have you. I will save you. I would hold her until she fell asleep, safe in the arms of a liar. I would weep silently into her hair because I know I have traveled back in time not to change her fate, but just to hold her while she is still warm. I love you, Sam. I can't wait until the day I see you again. I wish you could see your niece. They say she has your smile. Mom is gone. Dad does not remember his name. My wife is gone, Sam. She, like you, fell ill. I wish you were here to hold me, much like I held you. Story 49. Watch over my best friend and this time make sure she does not die from alcoholism. Story 50. Hug my mom and tell her I love her. She is not dead or anything. I just wish I had said it more. Story 51. If I had retained my knowledge, the list would be almost endless. I would not change who I married because I love her too much and would not want to lose my children or grandchildren. I would change my lifestyle. Quit smoking, drink in moderation, and be serious about our financial future. I would undo many decisions that nearly wrecked our lives. Story 52. I enjoyed my body for what it was. I was fit, healthy, and gorgeous. I grew up in the 1990s, so even though I had an eating disorder and did 2 competitive sports, gymnastics and swimming, I thought I was fat. I have a stocky build. My rib cage is large. I had 14% body fat, but because I was not a size 0, I believed I was obese. It is so messed up now. Story 53. Hug my mother, father, and brothers. One brother is still alive but has become an unkind person. The other 3 are deceased. Story 54. Hug my mom, then ask her everything I forgot to ask before she died, such as how to make her peanut butter fudge. Story 55. Look in the mirror and go through all the items in my bedroom with open-hearted joy. Walk through my town and see my family and friends. Tell my childhood bully to leave me alone. Story 56. Honestly, I would start keeping a journal and write down everything I actually think and feel, then take it to a therapist or school counselor. Forget trying to be cool. I would fix my mental health, my confidence, and my habits early instead of spending my 20s unlearning all the damage. Story 57. Start writing things down very quickly before I forget what I want to remember in the years ahead. Then hug my mom. Story 58. Please obtain a copy of my school schedule. I do not know which classes I have, when they are, or where they take place. Story 59. I'm changing a lot of stuff, laughing my ass off. I never took anything seriously, and that mindset followed me into adulthood. I created bad habits that carried on much longer than they should have. Story 60. Depends. At the start, it was so different. There is not enough space here to write. At the end, do not go to college. Enlist in the military. They can pay me to learn a skilled trade instead of pivoting to a trade after wasting time and taking on student debt. As a side benefit, by not going to college, I will never meet my ex-wife. Story 61. Will it be before or after my mother dies? If it is before her death, it could be either before or after her cancer diagnosis. If it is before diagnosis and before death, I would hug my mother. If it is after diagnosis but before death, I would tell my mother I love her. If it is after her death, I would try to open up to a priest about my relationship with my father. My teachers did not understand the dynamic between my father and me. Story 62. I am comfortable in my own skin. I spent my entire teenage years and my early 20s trying to be the person I thought others wanted me to be. Turns out people can pick up on that lack of confidence, and when someone is acting fake, it shows. My whole life changed when I finally had the confidence to just be myself. Story 63. Start figuring out how I can meet my wife in 10 years without the butterfly effect preventing it. Then see if I can help my friend Brian adopt a healthier lifestyle so he does not harm himself. Story 64. Go find my wife so I can marry her even faster than I did. Story 65. These posts are interesting because the choice is always informed by our current life, which is defined by our past experiences. If you go back in time and immediately start changing things, your current past does not exist anymore and your regrets and accomplishments never happened. You then create an entirely new set of regrets and accomplishments. Who is to say that your new life will necessarily be any better? Story 66. McDonald's breakfast and the Breakfast Club on Turner Broadcasting System, just like back in the day. Story 67. Go to community college first, then transfer to a university to minimize my college debt. Also, start medication for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder right away. Story 68. I would relive those epic sleepovers, binge watching movies and laughing until dawn. Such great memories. Story 69. Honestly, I would probably sleep with any girls who later turned out to be attracted to me. Teenage shyness on our parts was the ultimate obstacle. These are serious numbers. It would be madness not to act. Then I would buy about 100 bitcoins for $30 and play the waiting game. I would probably invest heavily in Tesla, too. Story 70. I went out with my friends. I had the best friends during my teenage years. Story 71. It depends on my age. First things first. I am visiting as many arcades as I can. Story 72. Turn on the Xbox 360 and enjoy Gears of War 3 again with my brother. Highlights of the good times. Story 73. Aside from the obvious advice to buy Apple, Amazon, and Bitcoin when it comes around, actually pay attention and try in school. In my 30s, I now love to learn, and I think I would excel in high school. Back then, my general and social anxiety, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and depression held me back. But now, free math, physics, engineering, computer science, history, and French language classes while I have no job, no bills, and unlimited free time. Sign me up. I'll still skip Shakespeare, though. Story 74. I would turn down the guys who asked me out. Getting good grades is much more important. Story 75. I hugged and kissed my parents and called my best friend. I am blessed that we have been best friends since the 60s. Story 76. I would date a lot more. I was very responsible and did not get into any trouble. But I did not date much and would have pursued romantic relationships more. Story 77. Use my young, unshredded shoulder to throw something really far. Story 78. Do a much better job protecting my little brother from what was happening at our house while we were growing up. Story 79. I need to stand up for myself more. I didn't know I was being taken advantage of. Story 80. I am going to find my wife and try to convince her that we are going to have the most beautiful child ever. I will also buy a couple of Pokemon Emerald games to resell. Story 81. Talk to my grandmother. Undo my laziness. Try to go out with someone on a date. Really pressure my parents for an autism diagnosis. Story 82. Bend over to pick something up from the ground without experiencing severe lower back pain. Story 83. Ask all the girls out. Take the risk and stop caring. I'm still young, but the number of messages I've received since high school saying I always thought you were cute is egregious. Story 84. Do you wake up with all your previous knowledge? If so, I am going to college full-time in person to pursue the degree I always wished I could have. After that, I will move overseas, if possible, to work. Story 85. I cried because I had to undergo 18 surgeries again and endure 1 year, 8 months, 3 weeks, and 6 days of daily emotional abuse while being removed from my home by Child Protective Services because they did not believe I was ill. Story 86. Look at my body in the mirror and curse all the times I told myself I was fat. Story 87. Am I 18 in the 1990s like my first go-around, or am I 18 in 2025? Fuck that. Story 88. Become much friendlier toward the girls who gave me signals I was too shy to respond to when I was a teenager. Story 89. I probably should have slept more and stressed less. Teen me was fighting imaginary battles every day. Story 90. Break up with my girlfriend. We dated 3 years in high school and got married afterward. She cheated on me and let me believe my daughter was another man's child for 30 years. So yeah, fuck her. Story 91. Start trying to figure out how to get diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder in a shitty little town in the 1980s. Story 92. I spent my teen years obsessing over a girl who never loved me. I joined the army and used it as a reason to cut contact, but I then spent my time obsessing over another girl who never loved me. If I could do it again, I would still join the army. I missed out on a lot because I thought she and I were something we apparently were not. Aside from that, the army was awesome. I would get better grades and probably join the Peace Corps afterward. Story 93. Go give my mom a hug and tell her a joke so you can hear her laugh again. Story 94. Try not to be such a bookworm. Join a group or two. Be more adventurous. Story 95. Tell my boyfriend to piss off and let me live my life without needing men to make me feel worthy. Story 96. I would go to therapy sooner, save money more effectively, and spend more time talking with my dad to create memories with him. I would not date anyone for a good while. Story 97. The moment my ex-husband says, "Our immigration is up. I'm most likely leaving the country soon," don't say, "I love you." I'll just say, "Well, that's a shame. We'll keep in touch." Story 98. Take pictures of those fabulous breasts. I thought they would stay that way, laughing out loud. Story 99. If it's time travel, I would tell myself to shoot my shot with the girl I liked in high school. Story 100. My wife and son are the two most important people in my life and the ones I love above all else. They are the result of decisions I made throughout my life. I would not change a thing because doing so could cost me one or both, and I would never risk that. Story 101. Get a girlfriend. I was so oblivious to my own mojo that I was convinced no one would want to date me and that I was fat and undesirable. Looking back, I could have done quite well if I had tried instead of focusing on being the class clown. Story 102. I should have actually applied myself in school. I was on the honor roll and graduated with a 3.6 grade point average, but I put in literally no effort. I didn't do any homework. I just aced tests, projects, and finals. I probably could have graduated with a 4.0 if I had actually tried. Then I would have applied to aircraft mechanic school right out of high school so I could be licensed and making good money by age 20. I would have saved money, bought a house, and given my girlfriend a nice wedding. Basically the same things I did, but without the delay of a few years spent figuring out what I was doing with my life. Story 103. Take every cent you own and put it into Apple. Get a job right out of high school and invest the income in Apple. Forgo college. Buy a lot of Bitcoin when it first becomes available at a low price. Retire extremely wealthy at 30. Story 104. Honestly, fuck up a lot more. I didn't understand how low the stakes were as a child. Being grounded was a big threat. I would have happily traded many experiences I missed out on for a week in my room with my Nintendo 64. More drugs, sex, and drinking, more of everything. At 17, I would have applied to trade programs instead of enlisting. Story 105. I would not start smoking cigarettes. Lower my standards and have sex more. Save money. Make exercise a habit, eat healthier, and floss my teeth. Story 106. If it's a time travel situation, I would probably have a complete mental breakdown. I would likely never meet my wife, given how unlikely our meeting was to begin with. If it's just that my body resets but everything else remains, I would get a prescription for hormone blockers or hormone replacement therapy as quickly as possible. No fucking way am I going to let myself live through the wrong puberty again. Story 107. Get dressed and go to school with a defiant attitude and a smart mouth. Story 108. Wow. I can transition very young and start living as my true self decades sooner. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.